Welcome everyone to a very special episode where the brave meets the bold. It's outside the panels in the Definitive Crusade and Toyverse getting together to talk to one of the greats in the DC modern universe. Across the short pond from me, joining the machine Hughes, is Tracy. Tracy, how's it going?
I am all good and very excited.
How excited? Nicholas Scott excited or just excited?
I am on par with the Nicholas Scott excitement.
Whoa, oh, that is mighty excited. Control yourself there, girl.
I'm trying not to fangirl.
Okay, and across the big pond from Toyverse, we have Bobo. Bobo, how's it going?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a glorious sunshiny day here in Colorado. I'm talking Scott Snyder with you guys, so I'm alive and well.
Excellent. So our big reveal is none other than Mr. Scott, Batman, Justice League, Witches, American Vampire, and a host of other crazy stuff. Yeah. Snyder. Scott Snyder, how are you doing? Welcome to the podcast, man.
I'm great. Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to it. I apologize it was so hard to pick up. It's just crazy over here right now.
Nope, it's fine. Hey, you know what? This isn't the crazy one. A couple of months back, I had to talk to someone in China with a link into America. It was like 3 different time zones going through like 12 hours. It was like, I swear, people were in different days. They were in different days. All right, okay. I'll start us off dead easy, dead simple. We'll start at the top and work our way down.
Sure.
You ready? How did you break into the comics book, man?
Oh, man. I mean, I always wanted to be a comic book writer ever since I was about my kid's age. But my father always took me to Forbidden Planet, you know, the old one over on 11th Street and Broadway where they had the upstairs, downstairs, go every Wednesday. And then when I was, I guess when I was about in high school, I had a portfolio, like an art portfolio that I was really serious about. I went to Comic-Cons and tried to show it. But it was about in college where I just didn't know how to pursue comic book art. And I just started to feel like maybe I wasn't good enough at it. So I fell more into writing. And then I always kept writing stories that were sort of like, had elements of supernatural stuff or horror and those things. But I wound up going to grad school for it and then selling a collection of short stories. And I was working on a novel when a buddy of mine asked me if I wanted to be involved in a book he was doing where prose writers made up new superheroes. It was sort of like an anthology. And so I did it, and it attracted the attention of editors at Marvel and DC. And they came to the launch for the book, and they asked if anybody there was serious about actually wanting to write comics. And I had like tons of comics in my bag. It's like I've always wanted to do it. So they gave me a chance to pitch for some really small stuff at Marvel and DC simultaneously, like one shots here and there, 8-page things. And it was all I wanted to do. So I was 100% in from the moment I got a chance to do it, even though I had a pretty solid career in books. So the second I got my foot in the door, I was like, this is what I'm doing, and I don't want to go back. So that's kind of how I broke in, and then it just took off. I happened to be in the right place at the right time when it came to the opportunities at Vertigo. They took American Vampire soon after I started doing work for hire for DC, and then that led to Detective Comics, and I kept waiting to get kicked out, man. I kept being like, this is the one, this is the story that's going to get me booted, whether it's Black Mirror or Corey Wells or American Empire, but I lucked out. So I feel really, really grateful to everybody for keeping me around this long.
It must have been amazing though when you started off doing, you know, the prose, and then your short stories were picked up like by Stephen King. It must have been so amazing to have that kind of writer look at your stuff and be like, hey dude, you're really good.
Oh yeah, no, I was super lucky with all of that stuff. You know, I mean, I couldn't be more grateful. Just he's so supportive of new writers and you know, talent coming into the industry. And with American Vampire, I mean, he had read my short stories, and then when I sold American Vampire, I told them that I knew him because they asked me, do you know anybody in the horror community that might be able to write a blurb for the book? And I was like, oh, I know Stephen King. And so they were like, well, if you want to ask him to write a blurb, that would be golden for us. So I called him on a Friday and was like, you know, do you mind, do you think you might be able to read this and write a blurb for it. And he read it, and he was like, "Oh, actually, I'll write an issue if you want sometime." And I was like, "Well, if I tell them that, they're gonna want you to write issue 1 and not me." Like, are you serious? Are you serious about that? And he was serious. He said, "I'll do one, and then you can break it up over the first 5 issues. You can put like little sections of it at the back." And so I went back to them. I remember leaving them a message that late that afternoon, and the office was already closed, and I was like, I think it's possible that Stephen King might write an issue if we ask him. And then so Monday morning at like 8:30 a.m., I got a call from everybody in the office. Was like, "Did you get the thing that Stephen King?" So and then he wrote one issue that was I kind of gave him an outline for it based on the Bible of the series, and he started writing it. And one of the best experiences I think of my career was watching him do that, because he started kind of on script, and then he kept writing, being like, I think I'm going off the res a little bit with this one, Scott. And bit by bit, the story got longer and longer, and it veered off from where we had kind of given the outline an end. And he made this incredible. Our story ended right when, if you read the series, Skinner Sweet is our main character. He and Pearl Jones are the two sort of American vampires, and
it's one of my all-time favorite books.
Oh, thanks. We're bringing it back this year for its 10th anniversary.
I know. I can't wait.
I'm
hoping you're going to do something nice. I'm hoping you're going to do something nice.
Thanks.
Trish is our resident vertigo specialist.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, he kept going with it, and it's right at the point where Skinner busts out of the coffin in his story from underwater that his outline ended, and everything past that, Abelina and a lot of stuff that he added to the series was his invention. And so it was just a joy to watch somebody who easily could have phoned it in and just done an outline that we handed him and still written it better than any of us live in the world of a story. And it was a very good lesson to me to watch this rock star writer be like, you never phone it in. You never, just take it easy. You always kind of give it your all but lose yourself in the story. And so I'm very grateful. He's also really funny. He loved messing with us all the time. So he would be like, he'd hand in his script, and then at the end he'd be like, and then just at the end, Skinner Sweet turns into a bat and flies away. And then I'd be like, I have to tell Stephen King that our vampires don't do that, and what am I going to do, or whatever. And then I'd write him, and he'd be like, I'm just messing with you. You know what I mean? But then he would do it again next issue, where he'd be like, Pearl turns into smoke and goes away. I'm like, oh no. I have to tell Stephen King those are not, and he was just like, I'm still messing with you. So it was always fun.
And like with American Vampire, obviously there's so many vampire stories out there, and the American Vampire is so unusual and so different. How did you? What was your process with that like?
Thanks. The process really was. I mean, Americana and Americana has always, in American history, has always been sort of my favorite from childhood to now. My dad was a history buff, and my grandfather was served in World War II and was very intent on taking me and my sister to a lot of the places that he had been stationed, like in Hawaii, a lot, things like that. So I always had this kind of fascination with particularly American history in the 20th century, and so a lot of the joy for me of American Vampire is getting to the mobility of it, where I can kind of go and explore an era of my choosing all the time. But I remember exactly where I was. I was in a model store, like one of the stores where you get like a Warhammer, World of Warcraft, that kind of stuff. And I was looking for a statue for a friend of mine who was like a big gamer and that stuff. And I saw one that was a Confederate soldier zombie, and I remember thinking to myself, I don't know why they're not more Western horror stories. And then I started to play around with this idea of what would a monster be that was indigenous to the American West. And I was like, well, what if all of vampirism was just a set of different species, and the vampires that we know, they're these kind of Dracula kind, are just one species among many. And that really, it took off from there. I knew that I wanted the main character to be kind of an outlaw, and then the second main character to be a woman from the 20s, like an actress who's the moral compass of the whole thing. And it was great. I mean, I pitched it to DC in 2008, 2009, and at first it was rejected. I remember I was so heartbroken because I had a couple good advocates there and the editors I had worked with, but they were like, you know, it really is just like a vampire western, probably isn't going to sell right now, and what's the cover going to be, like a cowboy hat with fangs? And I was like, I think that sounds awesome. Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
but,
I totally like that.
I went back and I rewrote the pitch desperately, and I was like, I don't think you guys are seeing the scope of it. It's my fault. Like, I meant that it can go from era to era, and Pearl, I focused more on Pearl, and they were like, we don't normally do this, but we're going to take it. And so Pearl is always my favorite character ever, and my whole career is like indebted to her for saving that pitch. So yeah,
she was just,
and then I remember it came out right when Twilight was popular, and Stephen King, his first idea for the whole series was he wanted to do a big heap of sparkly vampires and have Pearl on top of it, and it just says, I don't effing sparkle. No,
good call. So. Good call. Stick to your guns.
That's fantastic. You know what I mean? And how do you like transition from that kind of thing into like the amazing stuff you do, like Justice League or, you know, your Batman stuff? How does, you know, going from the horror to the everyday superhero that people know, how do you
well,
as a writer, how do you do that?
It's hard. They're two different muscles. You know, it's a great question. They're really different. They're different sort of sets of muscles, honestly. I mean, for me, I really thought I would stick around and create around. I didn't know if I could do superhero. I mean, I grew up, still have all my long boxes. It's all I wanted to do. But they're almost kind of totally inverted processes where for creator owned, nobody knows these characters better than you. You're making it up from scratch. And ultimately what you're selling a reader on yourself. You know, you're saying this world that I'm making, you don't know it, but hopefully my pitch and who I am and what I'm presenting to you is good enough along with that you'll pick it up. With the superheroes, they know all those characters, have all kinds of expectations and assumptions about what should happen with them. And you essentially have to come in and be like, I'm just trying to convince you that I can do something that is personal to me, that I'm passionate about, while still staying true to the characters. They're almost like, it's sort of mirror images where, you know, with creator owned, they can't tell you, there's no road behind you where they can say, well, this character should behave this way or that way because, you know, obviously you're making them up organically. So I need them both, honestly, at the same time for me to feel balanced. So this last couple of years has been really superhero heavy for me, mostly because as Jeff Johns kind of moved more into TV film stuff, that position more opened up opened up a little bit more to kind of structure the line, lead the line a little bit with different things like metal. And so I wanted to try it and I love it, but I'm definitely moving into a phase this coming year where I'm starting to do a lot more creator owned as well, including bringing back American Vampire and Witches. So I I need to do both to feel healthy at any time. You know, I can't just do one.
I just feel like I want to do a Wayne's World moment. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
No.
Okay, Johnny. Sorry.
No, it's a blast. I love talking to you guys. It's fun.
So Tracy brings up an interesting point. Detective Comics has kind of had a history of kind of falling away from the main book and then coming up with a couple of creators that totally revolutionized the book. Way back when it was Alan Grant and Norm Brayfogle.
Brayfogle, right?
Yeah, what a guy. And Detective was on a bit of a dive when you came in and started with the Black Mirror stuff, and it was you and Jock, I believe, and Francesco.
That's right.
Yep. So how did it feel then to kind of get like this opportunity to do Detective and then carry? Because I mean, I know there's a differential between, say, American Vampire, Witches, and Justice League, but that first Black Mirror story, man, that's dark. That is like so standard dark. And I remember reading.
You know, and go ahead.
I remember picking the book up for the first time, and I'm a huge Batman fan, so I'll always buy Batman and Detective. And I remember showing my wife, I was like, look at this guy. He's like hung up on chains. He's had his legs chopped off. What's going on in the Batman book? And look at the colours, it's all red.
was so funny because I honestly, the way that happened was I was working on American Vampire and I had like a couple issues under my belt, and they came to me and they said, "All right." They kind of got wind that Marvel was very competitive at that moment with DC in terms of exclusive contracts. Things have changed a bit now, where they're not. Neither company isn't quite as trigger happy about giving people exclusives as they were back then. There was more of like a battle over anyone new to be signed exclusively, and so Marvel was sort of beginning to put together something for me that would have made me exclusive. Actually, the first job that I was supposed to have there post this little series I did, Iron Man Noir, I was going to do the Oz books with Scotty Young, and so I was getting ready to do it, and then DC came to me and said, well, we can't really offer you an exclusive yet. We're working on it, but how would you like to write the backups in Detective Comics? I was like, oh my God, the backups, that's my dream. You know, Batman's my favorite character. I would love that, but I don't know if I'm ready. And they were only like 8 or 9 pages long. And so I was like, all right, I think I can do it. I have this story. It's called The Black Mirror. It's about, you know, Jim Gordon and his son. And Dick Grayson was going to kind of cameo in it. But it was mostly going to be about Dick Grayson and, about Jim Gordon and James. And then Paul Dini was writing the features. And at that moment, I guess he went over to work in animation with Marvel and that stuff, and so the book just opened, and they said, "Do you want the whole thing, you know, front and back, for a year?" And I was just like, I remember coming home and telling my wife, and just being like, "This is my dream job, but I am not good enough for this yet. Like, I don't know how to write comics well enough for this. I need another." I thought I'd be like, you know, training for years before I ever got a chance to write a Batman story, and I was only a few issues into comics, so I was totally petrified. And I remember I said, like, the only way I was going to feel comfortable was if I worked with the kind of people that I was working with, you know, at Vertigo and American Vampire. And I had talked to Jock on the phone, and I knew Francesco a little bit. And more than anything, I knew the editors over at Vertigo, and they recommended as people that would help me, Jock and Francesco. And I remember I called Jock up, and I told him, I said, listen, I have the idea for this story, but I'm really nervous. I know you don't know me. I'm brand new. It would take a year commitment for you. And Mike Martz, who was the editor on Batman, was sort of like, there's no way Jock is going to do this. You know, he's doing all this movie concept art stuff. You know, he's super busy. But Jock was great. He was like, I'm going to San Diego. If you're there, let's meet up and talk about it over a pint. And I was like, all right. So I paid my way to San Diego just to meet him, really. And I met him, and we went to this bar. And I remember drinking with him. And Jock is way bigger than me. And and I was like, if I don't keep up with this dude, he's going to think I'm a total, there's no way I should be writing Batman. So I'm like, you know, Guinness after whatever again. And then like Jameson, I'm like, all right. You know, finally I'm like totally, like completely wasted, and I'm like, and that's the end of the story. And he's like, you know what, I like it, let's do it. And I was like, yes. And I went back to my hotel room, and I remember typing to Mike Martz, the Batman editor. I'm like, guess what, Mike? I was like, Jock is in, and I fell asleep with my hand on the end, just like, I woke up like, and that was really Jock. I had the best team, you know. Jock and Francesco were people that I hadn't met them. I had met Francesco, but it was more just that we were all kind of a circle at that time, the Vertigo people that were working on different books at Vertigo, and we all kind of trusted each other by proxy. And getting to know Jock, who's now obviously, you know, 10 years later, is like one of my absolute best friends, and Francesco, who I'm doing more creator-owned stuff with too, and Jock. You know, they really helped me too. That story, I really thought, I was like, I'm going to get one chance to do this. I'm going to get fired afterwards, I'm sure. And if I get it, I was like, I got 12 issues to tell the Batman story that I would like swing for the fence one time. I'll put everything I have into it, and that's it. And I'd never get another chance. And I wound up writing every story with that kind of a mentality. It was a good lesson. So now I try and approach every single arc that way, and just be like, what if this is the only chance I ever got to write this character? Is this good enough?
So let me ask a quick question then, because I think Black Mirror is absolutely fantastic all the way through. with that sort of mentality of kind of always swinging for the fences. I'm a huge baseball fan, right? So
Yeah.
I say I'm a huge baseball fan, and now I've blanked on his name. What was the name? Giancarlo Stanton, right? Played for Miami, plays for the Yankees now.
Yep.
Swings for the fences, holds the records for striking out, doesn't he? So it's kind of like you kind of Dark Mirror was kind of such an intimate story. I think you're being overly modest. I think serendipity plays a part because I'm not sure that story works with Bruce Wayne in the cowl as much as it does with Dick Grayson. Because Dick Grayson at that time was kind of like a rookie Batman, wasn't he? Rather than, even though he's obviously done it way back when before umpteen crises and New 52s and reboots and God knows what. But he's like Batman, Bruce Wayne Batman. We'll say it, Bruce. He's kind of like the epitome, the best of the best, isn't he? He wouldn't react that way that Dick did. So I think by having Dick, it really helped tell that horror element of that story that you were trying to pitch. Is that about right?
I totally agree. And also, totally. And on top of that, like, you know, being somebody who's terrified to write Batman, but really excited, having somebody be Batman who was terrified to be Batman and excited at the same time was like a perfect match. But
it's like an ultimate metaphor.
Also, it was like a great fit. But it also taught me, like you're saying, I mean, when you swing for the fence, it has to be personal. And at that point in my life, you know, I was feeling very much like coming out of a rough time. The book deal that I came from the book world at a moment when everything was contracting over there. The economy was kind of collapsing here. And there wasn't as much money in books. And the book deal that I had, when I sold the book, I didn't realize, because I was so young, that most of that money comes when they accept the book after you're finished, not at the beginning. So I had started this deal with Random House where I was working on a novel, and as I was writing it, I realized unless it was going to be a bestseller, they were probably going to reject it, because everyone was rejecting all my friends' books and everything. And so it was a really rough period where we had a mortgage, we had a kid, and I had thought we had this money that we could count on, and we were broke, you know. And so as I got into comics, and my wife was wonderful. She saw me happy getting into comics and was like, let's take out a loan and forget the book stuff and do that, because you seem happier than I've seen you. I realized the only way to tell an original story or swing for the fence on Batman or any other superhero really is to put that stuff in there, that vulnerability, you know, your fears, your anxieties, all the stuff that you it's hard to talk about sometimes because it's your own ugliness. But so Black Mirror for me is largely about Dick coming to Gotham and having to face a city that says, I'm going to present to you all the worst fears that you have about yourself, as I was feeling, I think, right before I got into comics, and even then, which is, you're not good enough at this, you're never going to make it, this isn't the role for you, I'm going to crush you, everyone you care about is going to get hurt by your failure here. And so the story was largely about Gotham being this place that adapts to whoever becomes a hero there or challenges it to produce their worst fears in physical form, in new enemies, new set pieces, new things, ultimately to make them a better hero, but in a terrifying way as an antagonist. And then, you know, Court of Owls, similarly for me, was right afterwards, I just felt like so bewildered by the success of it and being on Batman. I remember trying to find some comfort in just kind of retreating into my own, you know, family life and stuff. And my wife and I had moved out of the city, and we went back to visit our friends and see the place I grew up. And it had changed so much. Everything just felt alien and foreign. And so it started to dawn on me if I could do a story where Batman had the city's history and the fact that even when you feel like you know a place, it changes so quickly that, you know, you don't know it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago, or especially in a city, or 5 years, 10 years from now. If I could weaponize that against him, I could tell a story that was personal and how I was feeling, and to really just sort of disrupt all of his confidence about Gotham and show how it's always a mystery. So I kind of built that one almost as like concentric rings of mystery that close in on him, where the Court of Owls isn't real. Yes, it is. Oh, they don't have any bases anywhere. Yes, they do. They're in your buildings. Well, it doesn't affect me. Actually, it's your family, and it gets closer and closer, you know.
That concentricness. Sorry. That concentricness it shows in Greg Capullo's art in some of the issues, where especially when he's in the maze. What's that? Is that Batman 8
I
or
love
9?
that aspect.
Yeah, and that kind of
Great. Greg is so good at that.
Yeah, so that circle element, that kind of ever decreasing circle element, is definitely within the art of that particular issue. And if you look at it, I totally see it now that it's like a tapestry. I've moved house recently. I totally get where you're coming from. You go back to your old haunts, and they're not your haunts anymore; they're somebody else's. So that's cool.
Well, yeah, and Batman's whole confidence, I think, comes from that sense of place, that sense of knowing the city better than anybody else. But ultimately, the reason that we don't know our homes is because, you know, the thing he doesn't want to look at more than anything is his own mortality, and how, you know, how ephemeral all of it is. And so I wanted to use all of that at once to kind of come at him with this version of history that would be this big, bombastic, kind of action-packed zombie owl ninja thing, but that beneath the surface was trying to make a deeper point, which is that you can never know a place the way he wants to know it, because you change and it changes, and that's all part of, you know, the fact that we're all material, and he hates looking at that.
Good call.
I was just wondering, you know, with all that in mind, you know, obviously starting out wanting to be in books and getting those kickbacks, do you kind of turn around now and like want to do the 2 fingers in the air and go, hey, 1 to 3, Batman Who Laughs has to be reprinted because it's so wanted by everybody, motherfucker. Sorry for swearing, but you know, does that kind of, you know, do you kind of have that little bit of a, you know, patting your own back because you think, well, look, this has made it.
Well, it's funny because the people that I know growing up, they're like, we never thought you were really going to stay in books, because they're like, of course you're in comics. That's where you always wanted to go. So to most people that I know that I have known since childhood, they're always like, well, we never thought that was going to be, we always thought you'd go back somehow from that to comics. Really, I'm still friends with the people that were going to publish my book in the first place. They were really sweet. What happened was, we were all caught up in a moment when there was a lot of excitement around new writers, and there was money in the book industry, and so they were really supportive of a lot of young people coming in, and they were supportive of me, and they supported I did a short story collection with them called Voodoo Heart, and then
which was
I was working on this book about a barnstormer. Oh, thanks. I still love the book, you know, and honestly, it was me that collapsed under it. The book was about. It was about a barnstormer. The idea was that I think it was 1911. It was 1911. William Hearst, essentially the newspaper magnate, essentially offered a prize, like $50,000, to anybody that could fly across the country in 30 days or less, because it was still kind of the linen-winged planes. And a couple people tried to do it, and it's about one of the guys who tried to do it, and it's his adventures across the country. And you know, he has a picture of him with like a broken arm and a cigar, and you know what I mean? And like he gets sponsored by a soda company at the time, and all that stuff. It was a lot of fun. But as I'm writing it, I'm like, if this isn't a bestseller, they're not going to accept it, and my whole life's going to collapse. So it was more me and my anxieties about it than them. So, you know, I love prose, and I would love to do a little bit of it again, but my heart has always been in comics, and like, I'm not an aspiring screenwriter or an aspiring, you know, novelist, really. I always wanted to do this, and you know, for me, I think what I'd like to do is this phase of my career. Honestly, I say to my students, like, you have to be the most exciting writer to yourself, you know, all the time, like on the shelves. And it would be pretty easy for me at this point to continue with Batman stuff, or with, you know, I mean, I know how to write small Batman mysteries. DC would allow me to do Batman stuff for a long time. And, you know, I could go over to Marvel or try. But the things that I've learned that I know how to do, I think pretty well after, or at least solidly after having done for a long time, to me, I just get really uncomfortable if I just keep doing them. So, you know, what I really want to do is, like, I want to try something that's part prose, part comics, and I want to try something that's, you know, a format. Yeah, so I'm doing a book. It's actually, I'm actually with Jock. It's called Evil. It's going to be fun. It's coming. It's coming, like, after we're going to do Witches. We're going to put the sort of beginnings of it together.
Are you going to put the next Witches out very soon?
Oh, yeah. The deal with Jock when
Tracy,
I did Batman Who Laughs is that I said, look, let's get a perfect artist for Batman Who Laughs. But if we do it, the deal has to be that right afterwards we go right back to witches. So, you know. But the idea is that, I want to try stuff that like part prose, part comics. I want to try stuff that's serialized, stuff that's graphic novels, stuff Kickstarter. I want to do things that I risk kind of falling on my face on, you know, because otherwise, what's the point? So
Want to start designing toys?
You know.
Yeah, your own range of, American Vampire toys. That might work.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. We're bringing it back it takes place in 1976, and it's bicentennial, and it's in Vegas. It's got Evel Knievel, all kinds of stuff from then. It's really fun. Skinner's human, all of it. It's really nuts. Like they wanted us to wait till the 10th anniversary to do a big collection for it, so we're doing that. The 10th anniversary is January, so we're going to start working on it over the summer and then bring it out in the spring, I think.
Sweet.
Cool. So you're moving on from detective. You jumped on Batman with Greg Capullo. The art style, very distinctive. That book for a lot of people, especially newer people who are coming into the comic book industry, like picking up books to read for the first time, that you and Greg will be their Batman. How does that feel?
Oh, I mean, it's really overwhelming. I mean, Greg and I both were paralyzed by the idea that we were doing Batman #1 and that Bruce Wayne was our Batman, and both of us almost quit. And, you know, the only way we could proceed, honestly, was almost both to pretend that it was like fan fiction we were doing and nobody was going to read it. It was sort of like, I'm just doing this story, you know, it's just him and me. At first we didn't get along, but then it was like, as soon as I saw his art with this story, we both realized we were very similar in our approach about kind of no ego, just whatever's best for the story. You sacrifice whatever thing you thought was going to work for what works better. And we just were like, we're making this for the two of us, just for each other. And so that was the only way to survive that, you know. And now seeing people come up with Court of Owls stuff from, you know, and Batman Who Laughs and everything. I mean, it still isn't real to me. It's very hard to stop and wrap your head around having made anything that has any resonance in the Bat mythology, because it's my favorite place in literature, you know. So I have a lot of a lot of kind of difficulty accepting that we even put a cobblestone in Gotham anywhere. So I'm very, very proud of it and honored and grateful, but it's hard to accept.
Okay.
Amazing.
So, Bob, off you go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go. Do you have anything to ask?
All right. So here's a question for you, Scott. So with Batman being so cross-media, I mean, his impact goes all over the place for licensing and merchandising and whatnot. How do you feel your impact has been with stuff with like certain toy lines? Like now Diamond Select's got the gallery statues and the Vinnie Mates coming out, which I'm very excited for. And then you got DC Collectibles with that new statue line they showed off at Toy Fair this year and all that stuff. I mean, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I mean, I still remember the first time they made a toy of anything we did, where we were doing Court of Owls and they made a Talon, and I was just like, I can die. You can put it on my tombstone. They made the Owl Buster suit. And I mean, so I have all of the toys in my house, like in our storage room, and then I'm building a writing studio on our property. I'm gonna put everything in there, so it's just like a giant toy thing. But I mean, it really is like, you know, it's an honor. And my sons are 12 and 7, and the reason it's been so hectic, also getting on the thing, and we have another one on the way in May, which was a surprise.
Well, you say it's a surprise, Scott, but really,
right.
you know, when a man and a woman love each other very, very much, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. I'm totally finding it out now. But the idea was that my kids are of the age where they love the toys, you know, and they were growing up when that stuff was coming out. And my 12-year-old, you know, was 7 or 8 when one of those things would show up, and the lawn ornament of the Joker, you know, he'd show them off to his friends. So it's a joy, you know, and the statues. I really feel incredibly lucky that DC has been as supportive as they have. And speaking of them, my wife will kill me if I don't go up and help with homework pretty soon. So I can always do it again. I can always jump back on, but she'll kill me if I don't go up and help them with their work in a minute.
Okay. All right.
That's okay.
That's fine. We can. How long do we have?
I don't know, like 10 minutes more. Is that good?
Yeah, 10 minutes is cool. 10 minutes
All right.
is. Well, do you want to go with another quick question?
Yeah, I'll do a quick question and then I'll let you guys wrap everything up with Scott.
Cool.
So here's something that I just want to say. It's more of a statement than a question, because as a toy collector and a reviewer, you see trends and whatnot. And what I love about what you and all the talented artists you've worked with Batman and stuff with DC is the fact, even if there's not merchandise there, we've had such an influx of customizers and everybody in between creating their own merchandise based on your stuff. Does that blow you away, or does that just shock you? Because it always shocks me, because I think it's cool that your work has reached even casual comic book readers on that level.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, you don't even know. Like, I have a whole area of my office where I keep things that people have made. So everything there's there, from like Batman Who Laughs woodcuts to sculptures, clay sculptures of the Talons, to like drawings that kids make. I mean, so to see customized things made, it just blows me away. The Grim Knight and all that stuff, but also just the support of various companies, and seeing the stuff then adapted on Gotham, or seeing it in the video games coming up. All of it is just unreal. I mean, I swear to God, the only way to do this stuff is for me at least, is to pretend nobody's reading it, to just be like, because immediately afterwards, if I think about it and be like, you're writing Batman and Alfred is waiting for you in the Batcave, tapping his watch, being like, it's time to do this, I freeze up even now, so you have to almost be like, I'm writing this for myself, I'm still 10 years old, that, because it gets crushingly intimidating otherwise,
Absolutely. Before they go, I will just let you know, I'll send you a tweet in a little bit. I had somebody make me a custom Devastator, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. A couple more things. I don't have to rush off. I just wanted to give you a heads up. That's all of it.
Oh, no.
You can probably hear I don't know if you can hear, but my kid is like running back and forth above me on the downstairs.
I'm actually so I'm gonna let them take over now. So I'll let them go away. I just want to say thank you so much, Scott. It really is a joy.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. We got to make it a regular thing too.
Absolutely. I'll see you at Denver Pop Culture Con. I'll be there this year.
Awesome. I have a quick question.
Yep. Cool.
Scott, I was just wondering, if you could write any other character, obviously you've done the big Batman, and that's huge take. But if you could write anybody, who would you want to do?
That's a great question. I mean, there's so many. That's the problem. I mean, at DC, Wonder Woman is probably my next one that I would really love for. I have a whole pitch for her where she's kind of like Hellboy meets Captain America, and she's got like magical weapons and vehicles from all kinds of cultures. She under the Smithsonian. She's dynamic by day, and she's kind of the gateway to like everything mystical, magical.
You are speaking my language.
Right? I just see her on like a badass motorcycle with the shield and the whole thing, and the what I mean?
Call Nicola Scott, tell her she's frauding this.
I would love it. So at Marvel, I think I have this I pitched Greg Capullo this idea. I really want to do the Hulk with him. I have this idea for a Hulk kind of epic arc called Hulk Smash Everything, and it's like it takes in everything in the Marvel universe, but I have ideas for a bunch. I mean, Wolverine's the other one, and Captain America's the other one. Those three, and then I have an idea which I actually one time in Ireland drunkenly pitched C.B. Cebulski, which was all three of them together on motorcycles solving
Easy Rider.
I'm telling you.
Yes, it's exactly like that, because they've all been around a long time. So it's like all the cold cases they secretly solved together with Nick Fury. It was totally one of those pitches where I'm like, "You're welcome, CB," and he was like, "I'm going to my room." You know what I mean, like that. So
next time you're in Ireland, we'll talk
a
about
lot.
that.
Tracy's in Ireland, so
They're
don't
fun.
say Ireland too often, because just say the pub and she'll be there. Isn't that right, Tracy?
Oh yeah, Dublin's waiting.
Oh, I gotta come
home.
back, dude. I love going to Ireland.
You are
A
more
buddy of mine
than
lived in Galway for a long time, so we used to come.
wow.
I go to Dublin and go over there, and went to the Aran Islands, the whole thing. It was great.
You
And
should
then
totally
back,
come in November and come to my convention.
There you go.
There's
a
tiny little convention.
Just having the kids, that's the only thing that makes it
Mine is a
travel,
family friendly.
Stop selling your convention.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
All right, okay.
One day,
right.
Believe me, I love Ireland. I'd love to come back. I have a certificate in my house for being from the Jameson distillery of being an official whiskey tester. So and we went to the Guinness brewery. Amazing.
Okay. So the last question.
Makes me happy.
The last question comes in kind of 3 parts. So if I say it dead quick, it only sounds like one question, right? So, so we have Year of the Villain coming up. So kind of, what can we expect? Does this mean the Source Wall arc's coming to the end? How is it different from Forever Evil? And what the hell is #NOTG? There you go.
Oh, that was today. Wow, look at that.
Should be. I have that.
Well,
I have that
Villain.
one.
I don't want to spoil too much for DC, but
it's
nothing like Year of the Villain is nothing like Forever Evil, which I loved, and Jeff was really active and everything while I was there. But the idea with Year of the Villain is that it's Lex's. It's a culmination of the Lex story that we've been doing in Justice League. So as he's kind of unlocked these different powers that are sort of the reverse or the inverse forces that a lot of our heroes use, he's been able to kind of find out the secrets of the multiverse and the history. And what he's discovered is that long ago, the multiverse was started a different way. And the first time it was started by its grandmother, this celestial being called Perpetua, humans were this favored species. And basically they lived forever. They were predatory. They had all kinds of powers. And then when it was discovered that she had created this unnatural thing, I'm totally spoiling everything. She was locked away in the Source Wall. And the universe was restarted as it has been now. And humans were relegated to a very low place on the kind of food chain of life, and so, cosmically. And so Lex finds this out, and he's like, that's why we feel this longing, why we feel as though we're missing something in our lives, and why we understand so little, and everything passes so quickly, and we die, and I want to be that thing. And so Year of the Villain is really him saying, for the first time in my life, I believe in something greater than myself. I believe in doom. I believe in us as the great cosmic villains, humans. And I'm going to give everything I have, like everything from my resources, my company, all that, like even more than that, without spoiling too much, to make sure that evil wins. And that's it. Like that's kind of where it's headed. With their big surprises, there's big sort of everything. You'll see in the 25-cent issue on Free Comic Book Day, everything from Amanda Waller and the Justice League to crazy stuff with the things that we tease. But yeah, well, the story has been teased. The things that we have in Justice League #1, when Martian Manhunter has his vision at the end of the first issue, some of that stuff, like the smile on the side, that stuff plays out at the end of this year when we culminate in our big Justice Do More, and then whatever comes later. So, well, I mean, I know what's coming later, but I can't say yet. So
it's fine.
We really had a plan. The thing I would convey to everybody listening is this: like, sometimes you don't have a plan, and believe me, I've been there. And like sometimes you do. And when I did Metal, the idea was when I said to them, listen, if this hits and does well, hopefully it will. If it did, which I'm very grateful it did, then what it sets up is a 2-year plan for how this story then culminates with an even bigger kind of, cosmic catastrophe between good and evil that will really sort of shake the DCU. So we're on that track, and Justice League is telling part of that story. Batman Who Laughs is telling part of that story. The consequences of that series will wind up spinning into other books that we're about to announce. Superman has some stuff in it. Batman with City of Bane, the stuff coming is going to talk about it. So we're building an uber sort of big narrative that's going to come together in a way that kind of revisits a lot of the stuff from Metal, but gets even bigger in 2019 into the beginning of 2020, end of 2019, beginning of 2020 is when we really kind of everything explodes. So from here forward, it's on one railroad track where it's like see how we told you this would pay off. It paid off. Like one thing after another. I want it to be a reward system for people that have been reading, and if you haven't, you can always jump on. But ultimately, it has to feel immersive and expansive, and like it's one giant singular thing that we're all playing, from different angles. So I'm really proud of what we're building. I hope that answers.
Yeah, the answers a fair few of them. Well done. All right, guys, thank you very much. Bobo, thank you very much. Tracy, thank you. Scott, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us tonight.
No, it was a pleasure, dude. We got it. I'm not kidding. Let's just do it again.
Dude, don't worry.
Yeah.
We have a DC podcast called The Definitive Crusade. You, my friend, have put your name on a game of Jeopardy. Now, I'm not gonna drop names, but Graham Nolan absolutely kicked my ass at this game. And I'm season 1 winner, so dude,
Johnny's the king of Jeopardy.
So you've kind of got your name on that. So do some research, and then we'll go from there. We'll be in touch
on that. That'll be fun.
There's also my one, the dynamic convergence, where we talk. We talk about DC and Marvel, and we talk about all the stuff we like about it. So a lot of historical things as well. So we can talk about Swamp Thing.
We'll have to look up and figure out what this Marvel thing is. I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
right?
I'm with you on that one. All right. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time out tonight. Everyone else, don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favourite podcasts, including The Definitive Crusade, Tracy's show. Tracy, what's it called?
Dynamic Convergence.
iShow OTP, and of course the No Price podcast. And Flipside Focus if you like things on an indie beat, which is where you'll probably hear about American Vampire. All right, guys, thank you very much for your time. This is Machine Hughes saying adios.
See you guys.
Ta-ta.
Thanks again.